Sales process. I think it's so critical, but you are always delivering an experience, and that delivery is informing your brand. And that's what people are going to remember. It is never, ever, ever about the garage. It's always about what it means to people and
Okay.
the feeling that you leave them. And the feeling is what all sales are based on.
All right, guys, what is up? Blair Witkowski, and I am here with Matt Kuehlhorn from Grand Junction, Colorado, the owner of Kooler Garage Doors. Matt, you got a lot of K's in there for me, so hopefully I don't step over those. But thank you for coming on. We were just chatting for a second, and tell me, I always like to open up with just tell me a little bit about yourself. Give me the elevator pitch, which is hard to do. You're a very interesting dude.
Yeah, Blair, I really appreciate just being on here, and hope that I can share some value for you, to you and your listeners. And yeah, you nailed it, Matt Kuehlhorn. I'm in Grand Junction, western slope of Colorado, and have started Kooler Garage Doors 10 years ago, and quite the journey. But we're pretty focused on the home service model and delivering value to our customers. I'm a Midwest kid, grew up in the Midwest, got out to Colorado in '97, and have loved the sunshine and the outdoor pursuits. So I really just grabbed my heart, and I haven't left, and hence putting the roots deep.
Cool. I appreciate all your pictures of your first truck, Princess. I love when I'm looking at people's social and you see the beginnings
Yeah,
on top. We're a Ford guy, so appreciate
yeah,
that.
there you go.
So how did you go? Because I saw a little bit in some of your other stories you have out there and info. You originally were a painter, is that correct? And then got into garage doors.
That's how Cooler started. So I have a one-page contract that's in the front of this building, and that's the first deal. And it was a paint deal. And so I contracted it with a landlord that there was an ex-landlord at the time. That's where my daughter was born, was this house. And I had never really painted a house before, but long story short, it bubbled up, and I was like, oh man, I could call this lady back. And so I struck a deal after doing some research, and a one-page contract started Cooler, and we were off and running with that project.
How did you go from painting and doing all that to really, I mean, and for anyone watching, like you got to go check out Matt's website. If you want to know, what a garage door website should look like in 2026, that's, we're so far away from like that traditional old school look. And I just love your site that it looks more like an architect, like a home builder. It's really, really cool. So tell me how you went from painting to garage doors. Cause that's, it's interesting jump.
Yeah, so part of the story that would tie it all together, I mean, I started Cooler in 2015. When was it? I don't know when it was. It had to have been like 2005, 2006. My wife and I had some transition. We were moving around in mountain towns, and we had come back to the Gunnison location. Gunnison's a small little cow town. And when we came back, I was just in transition. Like before Cooler, I was deep into nonprofits, youth development, experiential education. I'm a guide. I would take people out into the wilderness and do fun activities, and then teach about the natural environment or life, whatever came up. And I was in transition. So I worked with a company, Gunnison Garage Door, during this transition. So I was making $15 an hour, and I was an installer, and I ran with Don Lansford, and I just had a blast. I did that for maybe 9, 10, 11 months, somewhere in there. And then I went back to a nonprofit gig that was a cool opportunity that had opened up. So I saw and understood how to install, how to move stuff. Fast forward back to 2015, I struck a deal with a house, and I started painting a house, and I'm on that job, and I get the next job, and I paint the next house, and then I get the next job. And this is now the summer of 2015. I'm like, well, I had a lot of fun doing garage doors, and well, Gunnison Garage Door ran out of town in 2007, 8, like that little blip in the economics. They couldn't navigate it, and so they left. And I was like, huh, they ran, the owner ran really hard, and then he had 2 installers, and he had a carpenter, and then his wife answered the phone. Like I saw the model, and now they're not here. Like they had to have been doing a decent amount. Huh, I wonder who's doing that. And so I looked around, and there was one other operator in the valley, but there was nobody else. And so I was like, well, there's a little niche here. And I did have so much fun running with Don. So I went for it. And we just brought, so Cooler Painting was the LLC at first, and then I went Kooler Painting and Doors as a DBA. And then they both ran for a long time together until they became like grown up siblings and they started fighting each other in the house. And that's when I had to make some decisions. But I didn't make the decision before I went really wide and got into a flooring of epoxy, of cabinets. So I got into
Oh,
different paint levels. We were in custom homes doing fine finishes, places where Matt should never have been. And I
good to know
learned
that.
some very, very expensive lessons before I started understanding the power of focus and just understanding the niche.
That's cool. I like to, when you said experiential education, my daughter works with Pug Annunciation Heights right outside Estes Park, their outdoor youth camp. She's,
Yeah.
so for state Denver, they do all the outdoor education that's required for when they go visit and stuff, their outdoor labs and everything. She's outdoor lab instructor. So I'm in South Carolina, so
That's
she's far,
amazing.
far away near you. But
Yeah.
yeah, so the painting and the I have my best friend is a painter, and I do know when you're doing luxury homes, that is tough. But you get the wrong client who just nitpicks and goes all around and not what they wanted and lots of stuff.
Gosh. Yeah. You're just agitating PTSD, but I could go for hours on stories of mistakes.
You
Goodness
got
gracious.
into the garage doors because you knew, so that was interesting. So you've been doing doors then, if you go back to 2008, that you've been doing doors a very long time.
I had that like 11-month stint. I don't know if I was actually there for a year, but I saw it, right? I knew enough to be dangerous. And then I tend to just love change. I love risk. And I just saw like the opportunity. And so it's like, all right, I could do that too. Off and running.
So you started Kooler, and I mean, you don't have to go through every detail, but how'd you go from your one truck, which you called Princess, which I think everyone looking at your feed, that's very cool, to you have how many trucks you guys are running now, and you have like 11 employees?
Yeah, we're a team of 11. And we're adding probably another one or two before the year's end. And so we're in some interesting times of scale and growing. Man, that's such a big media level. Like everybody looks for, and I do too. Like I'm like, okay, what's the one thing? What is it that can just all of a sudden open up and scale and grow? And
There's not. It's doing the next best thing, one foot after the other. Yeah,
that's right.
I've spent a ton of money on coaching myself in courses, and I can tell you it's one foot in front of there doing that.
Yeah. And I think, I also know that it boils down to answering probably the toughest question for anybody to answer. And that's what do you want? And so
Mhm.
when I started Cooler, I was thinking about this and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to make it Kuehlhorn garage doors. I'm not even going to make it Gunnison garage doors because I didn't want to get stuck. And
Mhm.
what I mean by that is at that point, I decided then I was going to build a company that was able to sell. Now, if you asked me to do that today, I would do it totally different because of what I know. But back then, I knew what I knew, and I was like, yeah, I want to be able. Well, out of the gate, I was like, I want $1 million company. That sounds so amazing. And
Well,
then
you just like forward thinking on that.
we got there really quick and I was like, what the heck was I thinking? This is ridiculous. But at any rate, I made the decision of like, okay, what do I want? Well, I want a company that I could potentially sell at some time. Okay, well, I'm not going to name it my name. I'm not going to name it a region because I want to be able to have the flex and I want to be able to have something that's outside of me. And that ultimately is, part of this journey is like, well, how do I really grow that? How do I really scale that? And
And
so
if you want
there's
to sell it, you can't be involved in daily operations, right? It has to run without you too. And I think it's funny. I talked to some guys,
absolutely.
$1 million a year. It's a lot of money, but it's not as much as a lot of guys watching this think after you pay everything.
Man, if you're hearing that and you're like, yeah, that's a lot of money. I mean, it is not.
It is not.
It's just not. I mean, I literally thought it was, and then like these days, any given week, 100K can go in or out, and it just puts it into relativity. I mean, what I think people really want is like $1 million EBITDA business, and
Mhm.
that's $1 million of profit. And now you can actually do something with profit because again, that profit is theory. It's not going into the owner's back pocket. Like we'll clip a million EBITDA next year, and we'll have a healthy, real operation that could be sellable. I mean, a million EBITDA is kind of the entry level to be able to talk to PE or, a real professional buyer, but it still doesn't mean like there is just gobs of money floating around. I mean, for anybody that really professionalizes a business, every dollar is a little soldier and it has marching orders, and it's important to put it in the right place. So a million EBITDA just means that I've got monies that I can invest in on my team. I can take care of people. I can do training. I can do capital improvements. I can look at vehicle. Like there's so much work that
What's
can be done
I've
in
heard
it.
EBITDA before, and I can't think of the acronym. What does EBITDA stand for?
It's a fancy way of saying profit. I mean, it's earnings before interest, tax.
Gotcha. Yeah, I knew it was earnings before something.
Yeah, yeah. Net profit. And really at a specific level of learning financial literacy. And we haven't talked about that, but for anybody that really wants to go pro on the business operations, that's the skill set. How do I understand financial literacy? Meaning, if I look at a profit and loss statement, I can actually understand the actions behind it. And if I look at the balance sheet, I can understand what's really happening in that business. The folks that understand financial literacy, and this has been something I've been studying and looking at for a long time, like this is the language of business. And the better I can get at that, the better I can understand where my levers and dials are for real scale and real movements. And that's the game. That is
Knowing
the
what
game
you
of
know
business.
now, if you had to start over in the garage doors and you're like, I'm going to get my company to 1 million top line, what are some of the things you would do different? You just said you do things different. What would you do different compared to how you did it the last several years?
Yeah, there's so much. What quickly bubbles up is pure focus. Like
Mhm.
I'd be super mindful of the market. And what I mean by that is I would want a larger market than where I started. I started in a town of 5,000 people, 18,000 people in
You
my
live in an area
county.
before, sorry. So I was looking at the map. It seems you're out in nowhere really. So you don't really have a lot of big towns because you're west of Denver. So how big of an area do you cover right now?
Yeah, so I mean, 60 miles is kind of the
Okay.
circumference. But there's, a roughly population of 200,000 in this part of the area. I mean, Grand Junction's the main hub between Denver and Salt Lake, so it's got some juice going on. It's not a city by any means. It's a small town, but
Okay.
there's room to grow. And getting back to the starting, like it's focus. It's deciding what I want, and if it's a million in top line revenue, then I'm going to structure my pricing, um, a sales process, and that's going to inform the marketing message, and go knock on doors, go shake a lot of hands. I mean, it's at that level, it's just a lot of tenacious actions.
You bring up sales process. That is one thing in our industry, garage doors, that it's only the bigger guys get to that point where they have that. I mean, at what point did you develop your sales process? I mean, do you have a pitch, you shaking hands, kissing babies, you're networking. And when you get to someone's house, how are you closing that deal?
Yeah, so these days it's getting more and more refined. We're always developing it, but I've just been looking at the models, and it's R&D. It's ripping off and duplicating. Now, to do that in my own brand way and brand voice
R&D, that's
is
going
the
on,
key.
writing that down.
Yeah, yeah. It's the jam, man. Sales process. I think it's so critical, but you are always delivering an experience, and that delivery is informing your brand. And that's what people are going to remember. It is never, ever, ever about the garage door. It's always about what it means to people and the feeling that you leave them. And the feeling is what all sales are based on, right? So there's a transaction. It's like, well, I actually need this because my door is broke and I want to get it as cheap as possible. Well, now it becomes a commodity. And maybe that customer is going to go to Home Depot and get it, and the handyman's going to put it in, whatever. Like you could do things a way less cost on a dollar to dollar transaction level. But if we play at another level, it comes down to the experience. And so, what do customers feel and experience when they see Kooler moving through town? Do they think like, oh, whatever? If they see our TV ads, which we're running, like, what do they feel? And that's the message. How does my CSR answer the phone? Or if I'm answering the phone, how am I answering it? And I think the sales process is like, what intentionality and what attention are you putting in to just how you're doing things? Like literally, how we answer the phone is important. As long as Carson over here is smiling and he's like, thanks for calling Kooler Garage Doors. My name's Carson. How can I help you today? Like, that's cool. Like, there's so many, if he was just like, hey, Kooler Garage Doors, it's
Which
totally
we can
different.
tell a lot of people to answer the phone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's totally different. If
Are
they
you doing?
answer
Do
the
you do a
phone,
lot of TV ads? Sorry, do you do a lot of TV ads?
we do. I got it influenced by Wizard of Ads and Roy Williams, and I actually contracted with that agency. So we'll kick out some stuff. I'm super new with them, but I started running TV about a year ago, and by no means is it inexpensive, but by all means, it's wildly powerful.
That is very interesting. I've talked to a couple of guys, and I talk to guys at all different levels. And when you get to a certain point, they're all doing TV and radio. You can just see there's a shift in the company where it becomes, the consumer garage door is a commodity. I mean, they don't understand that it's not, but they treat it like that. But there is a certain point where the business becomes so well branded that they just know if something automatically, you guys pop in their mind when something goes wrong with the garage door because they see you all over the place. And that is very valuable.
I would say the consumer might think it's a commodity, maybe. As a marketer, part of my job is to elevate the value of it. And again, it's not about the door. It's actually about your
The
home
experience.
security. It's actually about getting to Johnny's baseball game on time. It's actually about getting to your doctor's appointment on time so you can get that medication so that you can continue living. An elevated level of what that door actually means. And in communicating on the brand level, I'm not just catching the folks that have broken stuff, I'm capturing their imaginations. And if I have the message that communicates who I am, who Kooler is, before anybody ever needs it, then yeah, they're going to run into the door, have a spring break or some issue, and they're just going to be like, I'm going to call Kooler. So now instead of Googling garage door repair, they're Googling Kooler.
Do you find that doing that level of TV ads and branding also influences people to upgrade their door? Where if a door's not broken, they're not thinking about it. But then when they start seeing designer doors and more high end doors, that they're like, oh, and then they equate the higher end door with your company, that you're doing more new doors rather than just showing up when something's broken. They're actually calling to do, I want to upgrade. I want to do my curb appeal. I want windows in my door.
Without a doubt.
What percentage of your business is repair versus new installs?
I would say, that's a great question. I don't have that number off the top of my cuff, but I would say
What does
probably,
it feel like? Is it 50-50? So just give me a feeling. That's close enough.
I'd say 60, maybe a little nudge up is replacement.
Really? Wow. So you're doing more replacement than you are repair.
I'd say so.
Okay.
So.
Wow. That's interesting. That's
It's even, I would even say, 60% of the time when we go to a service call, we're going to replace a door. And I know people in the industry that are like 80+% of the time on a service call, they're selling a new door.
the selling door.
Bonkers.
Yeah. How did you go when you grew your company? One of the coolest things, just going through your social feeds, is you guys have a culture. Like, that is so hard to develop. I mean, even me, my own company, I would like to be more like that. And I just find I don't have the personality for it sometimes. But how did you develop that? I mean, you guys all have matching shirts, the colors, your branding. I saw the one video where when you have a new hire, you are breaking the glass and they write their issue on their fear, and you guys are not like that. Some people find that stuff corny. I think that's super cool. It really does develop, you guys are go-karting. I mean, anyone wants to check it out, just go check out their Instagram feed. You'll see it over there. I mean, how did that come about? You started as one guy. How did you get to that point?
Yeah. Again, going back to my past experiential education, and this is, I get to turn 49 next month. And so just being around the sun a few times, I understand that I am a guide. This is literally what I'm here to be, is a guide. And I can take this vehicle of Kooler, which happens to do garage doors, and I could create experiential moments. And its leadership is about, I think, moving people. I think one of my jobs is to extract potential and bring people up and forward. And I haven't been good at this. Still don't think I'm very good at it, but I'm getting better. But as far as culture goes, culture is defined by what we're doing. Like, where are we going? What's the mission? I mean, we are here literally to help build strength in communities that we work in. Day by day, we're here to win the hearts of our customers. That's what we're doing. If you're into that, you probably are a good fit. We have core values. We do what we say we're going to do. We're going to improve 1% or more every day. We do the nitty gritty. We're going to play to create win-win-wins. If you're into that, yeah, there's probably a good fit. So part of my job is to protect and build culture, and that's the foundation. And then the fun stuff happens, which is the rituals. It's like, yeah, we go karting because we have a really great top 3 in the state go-karting course here, and it's an easy lift. But then the hammer ceremony is an actual ritual, and we only have a few of these things, but they get a branded hammer, and we're going to break glass, and I'm going to ask them to write one word that represents something that they feel is in the way. And we're going to have this little credo, and then they hammer the glass and it breaks, and it's awesome. And it makes good, fun little videos and photos. But I tell you this, where it came from was on my very first job. I'm painting this house. It's lead-based paint. It's got asbestos shingles. I'm like learning how to paint this thing for the first time ever. And I have a student that is a photographer. He's studying photography. He's going to Western State College or University. And I'm like, well, can we do a photo? And we happen to have a big piece of glass. So he crawled into my work van. We set this big piece of glass up, and I'm punching through the glass. And I just think it's so cool because on a deep level, like, it is Matt breaking his own ceiling of his beliefs, his baggage, made up stories that we do. And this is the same for everybody. So when somebody comes in, there's a 3-month apprenticeship. They have to learn the game. I rarely hire people that have real experience in the trade because I haven't seen that work out with many, many attempts. So they're apprenticing, and it's real. They're learning how to think, how to talk, how to do, and how to live, breathe our culture. Because I make promises to the folks that join. I promise people that they will really ultimately be a better human after their time with Kooler than when they got here. They'll likely earn better than they ever have with Kooler. And here's the balloons. I don't know why this does that. And then they'll definitely be a better communicator. And as long as they lean in to achieve those things, and I'm leaning in with Kooler for them to achieve those things, they'll hit it out of the park. But it's about the rituals, and there's a few more, but the hammer ceremony is one of the bigger ones.
What else? I mean, one, I want to go back to the rituals. I don't want to skip that. But how did you develop a training? So you got a 3-month. You said 3 months apprentice. Is that what you? Tell me about that. What is that like? So you're taking someone new to the industry right off the street, if they're good fit. But what do they learn? I mean, obviously they're learning the industry, but what are you doing? And you have the same type of training every single time?
I would say that this is still a weak area for Kooler, and it's one that we have focus on. So if you ask me in another 6 months, I'll have a different answer. But we do have a structure so that in week 1, I have an apprentice today. In week 1, my only expectation of our new guy, Cesar, is that he understands what things are called. I just want him to be able to point, and his exam is going to be with a big fat sticky pad, and he's just going to sticky note anything on the door that he can label, right? Because we need the terminology, and that terminology is like the literacy to garage doors. And so we want to be able to talk the same thing. That's just week 1. Just do that. Week 2, now we'll start getting into SOPs. We'll look at the process of how we stack a door. And usually we'll take a brand new person, whether they go onto the sales side or the install side, we're going to teach them the same thing. So everybody has the fundamentals of how a door operates. And that starts with installing so that we can understand symmetry, so we can understand balance and all that stuff. But each week we have outcomes. And again, this is, I could go in a whole new realm just with the idea of craft. And we call our sales techs, and all of us here, we're craftsmen. And the whole idea is craft is the intention and attention. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly at first. So we've had an apprenticeship program for a minute now. We've graduated a number of people from it. I still think it sucks. I think there's a whole level up that we could go to, but anything worth doing is worth doing poorly at first. And then we just keep adding intention and attention, just keep crafting it so that we can add little pieces to it over and over again. We're about to go through a big level up because now I've got an individual who has a different focus. He's going to be able to look at it way different than Matt ever could. And he's going to be able to do it way better than Matt ever could. And we'll get this thing structured so it'll be housed in a software. There'll be modules. It'll be a little bit more refined. But out of the gate, I mean, my apprenticeship program still is just one spreadsheet. Here's week one. Here's week two. Here's week three. Here's week four. Week four, the fundamentals should be there so that they could go install a door and an operator on themselves within a time, and it's like checked off, right?
I mean, a work in progress is still work done. That's for sure. I mean,
Yes.
a lot of times they don't even know what they know they need to hire someone. They do. And then half the time it doesn't work out because it's their fault. They don't instill culture, values, and train them. And then they wonder why doors are misaligned and things aren't done because the tech that they sent them with doesn't even do a good job and just repeating, copycat crime and stuff. I mean, so just the fact that you're that detailed speaks volumes on that.
Yeah, we're 10 years in, man. I ran paint operations. Like, yeah, I've seen this. I've messed up so many times. And I think all too often, and if somebody's listening right now, like listen to this. If it hits, like do something about it, because I think all too often, and I could have done this. Like we bring on a bad hire, we bring on a good hire, and we don't onboard correct, or something happens and we get burned. And now that hurts. Like we had to get out of our own way. There's vulnerability involved. And now it's like, oh man, that guy cost me $5,000. Like that hurts, or more. Right? And then, well, is it even worth trying again? Or can I really look in the mirror and say that that was my fault?
Well, that is a key. I am a big David Goggins fan, and always talks about the looking in the mirror. I mean, I think most of our problems are our faults at some point. We're in charge of that. But you're very motivating. You're definitely bringing up topics that a normal garage door company at different levels, it's not even on the thought process. Who are you influenced by? Like how did Matt become like this? You've said several times about improving every day 1%, self-improvement, doing a better job. You just don't wake up with that mindset. So where do you go to get that kind of motivation?
Man, I could answer that in so many different ways. I consider myself a late blooming entrepreneur. Like in my 20s and 30s, I was super reserved. I didn't want to step out of bounds. I wanted to have people like me. I was super guarded. So I have a playground of LLC in the graveyards. Like there's multiples of attempted LLCs that didn't have any firepower.
Mm-hmm.
I had great ideas. All I had to do was execute. I just didn't because I didn't want to stand out too much. I wanted to stand out, but so all this stuff is like the baggage. In 2011, my first baby was in 2009. That's when I became a father, and that had some spark. Like I saw this little baby girl, and I was like, I gotta go. The hippie days are over. Like this is done. I gotta go. And so I always had a knack. I don't know where the knack comes from, as far as just getting myself out of comfort. Potentially, it's something that I learned in experiential education of the comfort zone. I was like, yeah, I want to keep growing, so I want to have this little nudge. I never want to see myself super comfortable. I really don't know if that's super internal or not. But in 2011, my boy is coming into the world at this time. And I went down this road of buying courses and getting myself into different rooms. And I ultimately went bankrupt because I created a $60,000 credit card problem for myself that I couldn't figure out at the time. Outside of chapter 7, I was working at a nonprofit earning $30,000 a year in my salary. My wife was at home with little babies, and I just felt like a complete mess up. It tore me up, but it got me into a room with Keith Cunningham. Now, Keith Cunningham is Keys to the Vault. He's an incredible entrepreneur. He's an incredible human. And when I first saw him on a stage, I couldn't hold eye contact with him because of how weak I was playing. And this can go into a whole new realm of like immature, mature, masculine energy, that kind of stuff. But I go down to Austin twice to work with Keith. First time is the MBA, the 4-day MBA, where he's just teaching how to read financials. So that was the first time I started learning about financial literacy. The second time was in a room with 22 other entrepreneurs, and it was a mentorship style course there for 4 days. And day one, he sets a little bit of context, gives us some tools. And by the end of the day one, day two, he's like, all right, Tom, what do you have going on? And Tom's a multimillionaire, has big operation. He's like, well, I've got this, this, and this. And he's like, all right, brings in a tool, hashes it out, gets some feedback from the room. It's like, all right, Mary, what about you? And I'm like, oh crap.
Coming to ask you.
I got $60,000 in debt. I have a salary job of $30,000. I'm in a room with multimillionaires. Like, what am I doing? Like, talk about all these emotions, right? So I play it small and I stay quiet. I'm just going down the road, listening. And while I'm listening, I'm like, I know what that person's problem is. Like, no matter what level we're at, we're all human problems. That's it. And so I was like, I see that. I see that. Okay, yeah, they're running this big empire operation down in Belize with a Remax, like it's just massive. And here's a dude who feels uncomfortable because some human thing. I'm like, huh, that's really interesting. And so by the fourth day, man, I'm not sleeping. Like I'm up, I'm journaling. It's 2 a.m. I'm just like, I just know what's gonna happen. And the next morning, like I'm walking into the classroom and Keith is at the doorway and he's looking at me. He's like, are you ready, Matt? And in that moment, like I could look him in the eye and be like, yeah, I'm ready. And so that morning I was the first one to be called on and I just disclosed everything. I'm like, here it is. Here's what's going on. And he's like, all right, just like any good entrepreneur does. He's like, well, here's the problem. Let's hash this out. So now the whole room's popcorning and I'm just still stunned. And he's like, Keith's awesome. He's a Texas dude. He's actually the guy that inspired Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is my understanding. He's the original Rich Dad. He mentored Robert Kiyosaki. But he's like, Matt, this is the time where you pick up a pen and write notes. I just feel like I was born super, super dense. And so that's a long answer to your question, but certainly Keith Cunningham inspired me. My kids inspire me. My wife inspires me. There is a drive in Matt to always improve. Like I really cannot stand mediocrity these days. And that's in my own, like I will attack my own mediocrity. I will see it out in the world. And I just think it's ridiculous. The whole good enough thing. Like I'm over it. I will certainly.
That is true for a lot of things. I mean, yeah. Are you a big operations guy? So you've got this big company. So are you, what kind of software you guys running for booking jobs and everything? CRM.
Yeah, I'm not a super big operations guy. We're running in ServiceTitan and have been running there for a number of years. We got into ServiceTitan when we were at $1 million level and just never looked back.
Okay.
Just to kind of add a little bit more context, I'm always looking to get myself into rooms where I'm uncomfortable. So I just got in with the Genius Network. This is where like a guy like Tommy Mello is going to hang out. Tommy certainly inspires me. I got to his conference in 2021. That kind of shifted my paradigm of what could be in the model.
Is that the word?
His vertical track.
Vertical track. Okay.
Yeah. But at any rate, I just look for people that are excelling in life and let that inspire and move and motivate.
So tell me about, you posted a couple of things about some AI. Are you big into AI? How's AI impacting your job as far as execution, doing things?
It's impacting a lot. And so, yes. I mean, we have AI taking over dispatching. I've got an AI tool that is a pure agent, could answer calls, definitely on the text, and our website can be managed by, Agent Weggy.
What are you using for that? What's
we
the
have
back end of
automations. I honestly don't know. I've got my guy Sean that sets this up.
Okay.
But what I do know and what I like about it is that Agent Weggy, he is our agent. And so any data that comes through is mine. If we go and hire somebody to do AI phones or any of these AI tools, they keep the data. So for a tech company, data is the value oftentimes. Certainly we're running Kooler as a tech company in some ways. So I'm looking at the tech stack and being strategic by that because that is just real leverage of efficiency. We're going to see monster companies being ran by tech, right? I think the premium level will keep the human interactions at very specific points of a customer's journey for a long time to come. I use technology in order to human better. That's the intent behind
No,
anything that we
you're not
do.
using that. Are you currently using an AI agent to answer phones, or you still have a live person?
We have a live person. I did dabble in that, and we had an AI agent and went full AI for a minute. I don't think the customer base is ready. I don't think it's going to be the premium level play. I
Hmm.
think that, affordable whatever will be able to run an AI agent and those customers will navigate it and be frustrated and be more transaction style. I think the premium level service will always stay human. I will bring on probably an AI just for backup. And then it would be like, hey, this is Agent Sam. I am an AI agent, just to let you know. I've got you on the call. Everyone else is booked up. So I can forward you, we can chat. What would you like to do? And give them options, right?
An option.
But it would be the fifth in line style. And so the other four or
You,
whatever.
you brought up a good point. A lot of people don't realize that when you're using these third party platforms, they are taking those clients' phone numbers and information
But yeah.
and they're data mining it and putting it in. It is not your data. And now and then they sell it. I mean, they're literally
Yes.
selling it. I mean, there's software out there now that a lot of guys are using, and there's various platforms, but you can now track the person who's on your website and get their email. I mean, instantly, and other companies do it, and it's getting cheaper and cheaper. But that's where all the data comes from, is because they've already data mined all these people, so they identify them when they're on the website. And if you are into door knocking or cold calling or something, you can call people and be like, "Hey, I just saw you're looking at a door on my website. Can I help you?" But that information is definitely coming from someplace.
Yes. That's exactly it.
Are your guys using any AI in the field? Are they, you have a preference? I saw you were talking about how you don't type into AI as much anymore. You're voice texting into AI to get results.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest hacks I've learned in the last week is I will only talk in a chat GPT these days. And that lets me just free flow because if we type, we edit and we
Hmm.
lose some of the context. And it's a language learning model. Like it's going to understand how I talk. So I just talk like I'm a human. I can talk really fast and, just get everything out and then it'll crunch it. So tip to the listeners, like just talking to your chat GPT, Gronk, whatever you're doing, as if it's a human, let it sort everything out. It'll save you time and it'll be more real. We are currently onboarding a tool that is going to leverage AI and it's going to record the sales and installation conversation. And then on the background, we'll have our filters so we can actually add some coaching pieces. It's a virtual ride along. There's a number of tools that offer that, but we're literally onboarding. I've played around with various different ones. The one we're currently moving into is relatively new and it'll have some good flex, but that'll be really exciting.
So do all your techs sell, or do you have dedicated sales guys that will go out for door replacement when someone calls for it? So it's kind of different roles.
Yeah, we have different roles. So we've got sales oriented, kind of the front of the house, and then installer oriented back of the house. So we've got a little specialization in each one.
Going back a little bit, when you started and you were by yourself, at what point did you bring on your first employee? Like, how did you make that jump? A lot of guys are in that. They're like, how do I get myself a helper? And then always the next one's how to get myself off the truck.
Yeah. I mean, nothing is easy about it. And, when again, I started as what do I want? I want a company that is going to run without me. And we're 10 years in and I'm not there yet, but I'm darn close. And, just put some context in there. But I literally hired on my first project. I was like, okay, who can I hire? And I
Okay.
went for it. And there's got to be the humility and also risk taking available for this. If I was to just look at, okay, doors. Well, my first hire in doors would be a CSR. Like, how do I get myself off the phones? Because a lot of guys are running, they're on projects, they're answering the phone, they're in the car, they're taking down notes. Like, just alleviate that. Like, that phone piece is so important. Who can take phones? Is it my wife, girlfriend? Is it a kid? Like who could do that, right? That would be my first hire if I was to reset everything and go from scratch. Because then I'm out shaking hands. I'm like trying to drum up leads, and I just filter them to somebody that can answer the phone, even if it's an AI off the cuff, right? Like that could be cheaper,
Right.
but just get somebody to answer calls, and then you could just flood the phones with calls as fast as you can with as many different strategies as you can,
Do
right?
you, do
And
you
then
recommend any virtual assistants for answering the phones for someone who's in that position now where they can't handle it? Is it, you know, the virtual assistants are getting better and better. I mean, you can go to South America and their English is excellent.
totally true. And yeah, I mean whatever it takes, really. I would just be like, yeah, that would be my number one
Mm.
hire.
Okay.
And then as I'm clipping jobs, like it's my job to run that sales process and then to do the install or repair. And so pretty quickly I'd bring on an apprentice and just have them run with me for 3 months, because 3 months is a rough time. If I'm intentional, it's about 3 months where then I could have that person go do the operator, go do the spring. Like I could sell it, they could do it. Could sell it, they could do it. Along with that is the expense of tooling trucks, depending on how you structure that with your employee. And there's some risk involved there. But if they're running with me for 3 months, I've communicated my values, I share with them and I model with them how I want customers to be engaged and interacted with, and then set the level of standard of how we show up, how we take care of our tooling, and how we do our installs, then there's this expectation and I just follow up and check up, right? And so now I've got somebody that's doing that. Well, the next thing is, well, how do I replicate the sales part? Because the doing is a little easier than the sales. And that could just be more time, or it could be another little focus intention. Have somebody follow and just do what I do in sales. Here's the sales process. Well, I'm actually going to write it down. Here's what I want you to say. Here's how I want you to knock on the door. Here's how I want you to present this. Just start dialing it in. And anything worth doing is worth doing poorly at first. So be okay with it being messy. And the intention is what matters. So if you intend on serving, it'll continue building. And maybe you
It
make a
is a
bad
great
hire.
feeling when one of your employees sells something. Like when you have employees that are out there and they're making the company money. They got a client, they sold, they closed, build them and did it. You know that, and that is the growth. That's the only way you're growing, because you can't do all the selling yourself.
It's so true. And I think another piece here that I just want to interject, because you guys are catching me in a moment that is super pivotal for Cooler. Like I jumped in the truck, yes. Like I'm an owner almost and still operator, right? And I can see it. I know next year, like there's a couple key hires. Like we are ready to make these key hires that would literally break me out, but I will still be very hands-on. And so there's a little humility that goes into like real leadership from my perspective. And I'm not afraid to get dirty. I will throw down with my guys. Like I'm still in shape. I'm going to run harder than they ever will. Like I will keep that little ego competitive mind. And I think that's important. But the other piece to this is like being okay with folks running at 80% of what you would do. And so you mentioned the selling thing. I've got a team of three sales folks and one person backing them up on the admin. They crush. They sell better than I could ever sell. My installers, they could install better than I could ever install, and I could still go on jobs and I could still find problems if I wanted to, right? And what I'm looking for is like I just need people to do 80% of what I do, and I'm good. And so it's
That's
just
good.
dropping a little expectation, because nobody's ever going to do it as good as you are going to do it. Period.
How competitive are, so you mentioned where you are in Grand Junction, 200,000 people. So three salespeople, that's a big crew for only 200,000 people. I mean, how many competitors do you have, and what are you doing to make the phone ring, to keep these guys busy?
Yeah.
That's what everyone wants to know.
So we came into this market 3 years ago, and just last year we consolidated. Long story short, I had two locations. Now we're in one. So Grand Junction is our home, and we're just dropping the roots into Grand Junction. The big players at the time we came in, there was at least three of them, but there's probably 6 to 7 different players. Some of these folks have been here for decades, and so they're very entrenched. They're all running old school models. They're chasing the builder. We're going for homeowners. I don't even know if they understand what we are doing. We're just crushing. One company has folded and gone out of business. Again, if these were companies of excellence and understood how much the market is shifting right now under their feet, they wouldn't have issues. But because they're stuck in an old school model, we're just going to blow them out of the water. And they could still be chasing builders, and that's fine because I'm not chasing builders. And
But what's the shift? We're jumping around, but what? So you mentioned that. So in your market, in the industry, what is the shift? Why do you think that old school model, besides being old, doesn't work? Where you're coming in and pouncing on them. What is that key?
yeah, well, the thing moving this is a guy like Tommy Mello and A1, but it's really technology, and it's really the opportunity to respond. And so the garage doors have been learning from their cousin of HVAC, right? And the homeowner has real issues. If they can't get that door to open, that's really a problem for them and their life. A builder is looking at a number of subs, and they're looking at doors as a true commodity. A homeowner, you can speak in a different level of value because they need to get to the doctors, the kids' game, they need life moving. And so it's a totally different game. We actually have some builders that work with us because we'll help them run their business easier. It's a different value set, different value conversation. But the old school is literally, this is what I learned from and modeled in the early days of Kooler, was to go chase the builder, go negotiate the price. Sure, there's a little value conversation that you can do. We had a little higher markup than the other guy, but at the end of the day, it's like, I'm going to look at apples to apples in pricing, and I'm usually going to go at the lower price. Unless you're really horrible, then I'll go with the next lower price. But the builder, the GC, has an incentive to go low and try to keep cost. It's hard conversation to say, okay, we bring the best value, best service. They're like, I just need the door in, man. And so then everybody races to the bottom. Well, if I can't get that deal, I got to go lower. And now it's a race to the bottom, and it becomes a true commodity. Homeowners still call those companies. They're like, hey, can I get a broken spring? They're like, sure. And they're going to swing by on the day after a job or before a job, and they're going to swap it out and get out of there. They're not looking at the whole thing. They're not understanding who that customer is, what they value, what they need to have happen. They're not giving options. They're just like, boom, thanks, $200, I'm out. Now I got to go do the real work of serving the builder.
Spring.
Yeah, it's happening all over the country. That's and they're being they're not taking care of their team. They're not able to build a team. They're not taking care of their community. They're not able to write checks in the community. And so the new school model says, all right, builders, if you want to work with us, I would love to work with you. We'll deliver for you all day long. We'll actually make your job a little easier. I'm just not discounting for you. I'm actually focusing on the homeowner. I want to be there for you. How do I get in front of homeowners? Well, I'm going to run PPC ads so they find me on Google, and then I'm going to get networking. I'm going to be at the school events. I'm going to talk to homeowners every chance I get. I'm going to ask for referrals. I'm going to deliver such crazy service and respond. I'm actually going to answer the phone. I'm going to call you back. I'm going to give you a heads up when I'm coming, and I'm going to bring you a cup of coffee. Like, we're going to get to win your heart. Like, we're here for the long term.
You mentioned the coffee. You mentioned the coffee. I just saw, I don't know where I was. I was either at a conference. Where did I see where someone was I was actually at a gutter installer conference in Atlanta. You're friends with Josh Crouch on Facebook. I noticed. So he's got Gutter Summit. I went to Gutter Summit this year, and one of the speakers was talking about that. And I think the dude owns a big painting company too. He does like a painting marketing company. What is his name? Can't remember. But he said, yeah, imagine the difference when you call that homeowner and you're like, hey, I'm 10 minutes away. I'm grabbing some coffee. Would you like some coffee? What's your favorite drink at Starbucks? I mean, you talk about blowing people's mind. That is mind blowing.
Bro, you already know this.
Like that?
The bar is so low on service. Mm-hmm. If you answer the phone, you're above the bar. If you offer a treat, you remember forever.
You mentioned PPC. So for your area, are all the guys running pay-per-click right now? Is that for, the cost per click is getting outrageous. And are you doing PPC or LSA ads?
We are doing both for sure.
Okay. And you feel like in this day and age, to be competitive, you have to do both?
It's a good question. I look at every channel and I see what the ROI looks like and what the opportunity is, and really evaluate based on that. And as of right now, it's a great channel for us.
Okay. That's good. Um, how are you using, that's what you mentioned, ServiceTitan. Is there any other software that you're testing, you're trying, you mentioned that you're testing certain things, but where do you see some of the technology going for the techs in the field to make their life easier? Anything jumping out at you?
The one tool that I had mentioned, we're onboarding it right now, is FieldSpark. That'll be a very tech related type of software where we'll be able to do some more virtual ride-alongs, in the moment coaching back and forth, and it's going to help the communication game for sure. For that, that's for installers and craftsmen. Now, obviously, ServiceTitan is out there. It's a monster of a software, but for anybody that is seriously intent on building something to sell, it's the game. Buyers will devalue companies if they're not on ServiceTitan, for better or for
Really?
worse.
Or any platform, or specifically ServiceTitan?
Specifically, ServiceTitan as of
So
right
have
now.
you started talking to some P&E guys, or you explored a little bit?
I talk to them all the time. And I would say anybody that gets a call, no matter what level, what size you are, talk to them, because that's going to inform your financial literacy. So I'll usually talk to anybody all the time. I've gone really deep just to be curious, because that's a big wave. It's a big shift in the industry right now. And it's not going away. I think there's some very interesting things that'll play out over the next few years because of PE. But
One of the ending questions, kind of as we wrap up, I always ask them, like, do you think that the sole proprietor, the guy starting out on his own with his own truck, can make it today? Is there
absolutely,
room?
all the time. I don't think that that guy will ever go away. Honestly, I would love to see some different accreditations and raise the bar and barrier to entry just for the safety of customers. But the dude in the truck will always have room. And that's just because at a local community level, people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And if you're an individual that has hunger and wants to get after it, I mean, it's tenacious work. It's hard. It's not easy to be in the door industry and potentially any business, but there will always be room for small individuals that play on the one truck, two truck, three truck level.
That's good
I
advice.
hear it sometimes. I hear it sometimes. I've mentioned Tommy Mello a few times. Like, he's got a loud personality. I could see a video of him be like, "Yeah, if you're not doing this, I'm coming for you." It's like BS, man. There's always going to be a local level play all the time, and there's always going to be innovation and things moving in the market to allow folks to scale and move. The thing that's happening right now that has not happened over the last even 10 years, Blair, it's just, and this is happening everywhere in every industry because of technology and because of some generational shifts. The change of the rate of change is real. In the 1900s, 72 years was like this rate of change for companies. And in 87, 88, a law went into place that allowed women to actually get a loan without a co-signer from their husband. Like, what ridiculous thing to wait so long on. But that put into motion a different rate of change. It became like 12 years for real change cycles. Bro, now we're in a rate of change that is so quick. I heard this phrase the other day. The 1900s really promoted intellectual intelligence, the IQ. Like, the IQ was a big metric. And then we get into the 90s, early 2000s, and even up to today, it's about EQ, emotional intelligence. Well, now I think it really is true that it's adaptive intelligence. Like, how quickly can you adapt? Because we are in this motion of change that is just going so quick. Nobody knows what AI is going to look like in 6 months. If they tell you anything different, they're lying. There's just
They don't. Yeah, no one knows.
nobody knows.
Nobody.
And so the rate of adaptation and change is just here. And if we're not changing, if we're not adapting, if we still have a model that looks the same as it did in 1990, or heaven forbid, 1970, bro, those
You're
are going to
out.
get wiped out.
You're out. It's true. I don't know who I was talking to. I was telling the story the other day, but my kids, my high schooler had a sleepover on Halloween, and I was like, yeah, okay, 10 of you, you're sleeping outside. South Carolina, it's still like, it's cold now, but typically this time of year, it's only 50, 60 at night. I was like, go get the Big Ten out there. Well, we hadn't gotten the Ten out in years, and there was no instructions. And I watched all these high schoolers grab their phone, open up ChatGTP, take a picture of the tag in the UPC, and start looking for instructions. Well, I mean, I used AI all day, every day, but that really was an eye opener of where things are going. They weren't even Googling. Everything was ask chat, ask chat. I mean, it really was wild. It was wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
It is wild. It's fun.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. We're hitting it here, but man, this was very interesting. I'd love to have you back on again. Any parting words? Got some 1-2 quick nuggets of advice of what guys can do in the garage door industry to make some money?
I think, parting words is just this real encouragement. Keep going, understand pricing, and probably when in doubt, raise prices, and then just deliver value to customers. That's the game. Fall in love with the humans.
Cool. Matt, thank you so much for being on. Everyone check out Kooler Garage Doors, Grand Junction, Colorado.